Goes Digital Initiative. The speaker for today is from BPW, California. She's a Young BPW USA representative. She's Ashley Maria, and she is a movie maker. She's a DGA award-winning director specializing in comedy and horror genre. She's also an advocate for advancing women's opportunities, and she was one of the delegates from BPW who attended the CSW in 2019. Her recent feature documentary, Pioneers in Skirt, raises awareness to the culture, gender biases, and also offers the change that we can bring to the community. It is currently screening virtually, but soon we will be able to watch all of the BPW sisters together. And recently, she made a entirely made in quarantine music video, which is called Lights in the Forest. And she's now working on her next venture, and we wish her all the best. And with this, I would like to welcome Ashley because she's going to talk about lights and sounds when it comes to presenting in a professional meeting. So we welcome you, Ashley, and now the floor is yours.
Hey everyone, I'm here to talk to you about presenting your best self online. Business and Professional Women Goes Digital. Let's do this. Maybe not. There we go. I'm Ashley Maria. I'm a filmmaker and I've been a BPW member since high school. I'm with the organization as a delegate. I was a delegate to the UN CSW 63 and 64. If you aren't familiar with that, you need to get on board and understand what happens, what BPW does in those areas. And also, I'm in Los Angeles, California. So I'm a filmmaker and I'm doing it here. So I want to tell you how to best light yourself and present yourself and just make it so that when you're having these Zoom calls, because remember, we're all kind of forced right now to be on these Zoom calls, bring your best foot forward, right? Today we're going to cover picking your camera. You don't always have to just use your camera on your computer. Choosing the right light. There are many, many options. Finding a good background. That's kind of fun to do, actually. The right kind of clothing, jewelry, makeup, sound. That's really, really important, and a lot of people forget about this. Some tech tips, some presenting tips, which are basically things I wish I had known, and some Zoom tips, because that seems to be the software that all of us are using right now, and a final challenge that I think is kind of fun. And I want to preface all of this by saying, do the best you can. Right now, I'm not even following all the rules correctly, okay? Like, use the resources at your disposal, and just realize, you know, if you can get one thing better, then at least you're putting forth effort. And also be aware that a lot of these things I'm mentioning right now are overpriced online. So see if you can use something in your home already. You know, don't go out and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get a good setup. But do what you want. Do the best you can. Take it or leave it, okay? Placing your camera, okay? Placing your camera. So right now I am at eye level with you. And that is one of the most important things you can do. You want to try to at least get eye level, or maybe even looking up at the camera a little bit, because that not only is it more flattering, but it makes it so that people can see your eyes a lot better. If you do anything, get your computer up on some books, okay? Right now I'm on a huge filing box. And then try to get a medium shot. So in my shot here, you know, I might even be a little too far. It depends on the camera. But you don't want to be so wide. We don't need to see your legs. And you don't want to be so close. Then that feels weird. I don't know. It's like right here. So play around with the angle. Remember, give yourself some time to test it. Another thing to keep in mind is to keep it on a solid surface. Keep your camera, your computer, your laptop, keep it on a solid surface, because when it's bouncing around, it's bouncing around for the viewer. So keep that in mind too. I know we have a tendency to do these calls from our lap. So one thing I like to use that I don't have it near me, let me grab it. this guy. I don't know if you can see me. It's one of those things that you put on your lap so it's a hard surface. That I'm obsessed with. My grandma gave it to me, I think, when I was in high school. I've been using that thing ever since, which was only 5 years ago. No, okay. And then try a nicer camera if you have access to one. Right now I'm using the Logitech camera, and it allows me to play with the settings. So I can play with the brightness, the contrast, the lighting, temperature. So here's a fun fact for you. When we talk about light temperature, it's basically your indoor lighting versus outdoor lighting, which is the sun. And so cameras can interpret those lights differently. And so having some control over what the white balance is, that's what that's called, is it's going to help you make sure that your skin tone is right. Have you ever been in that situation where you're like, why am I all yellow? It's because the camera just didn't adjust correctly, okay? So that's something, if you really want to invest in creating a more, powerful video experience, you might want to invest in a nicer camera. But again, do your research, because right now they are almost double in price, so be careful. And then finally, when you place your camera, make sure you are in a comfortable seat. Right now, I'm not touching the back of the couch. That's going to get tiring after about 15 minutes. So watch me as like I start to fall, okay? So try your best to, if you can, get some pillows and prop yourself up. But remember, these Zoom calls are tiring. You've seen the news, I'm sure. One of the reasons is because you're not comfortable in your seat. So be sure to check that out too, okay? So we've got, get that camera up on eye level as much as you can. Make sure the shot is flattering, and then make sure you're comfortable, because you might be sitting there a while. All right, here's the other one that I really want you to pay attention to. Okay, you gotta pay attention to all of it, but I'm just saying. Choose your light. So right now I am lit by the sun. It's shining through, and I also have some lights on in my apartment, but it's not perfect. I am not doing what I suggest. It's because I don't have access to this ring light, and I wanted to invest in one, but I haven't yet. So what I did is I just turned on all of these, or turned on all my lights, opened up the blinds. But the really important thing is make sure that the light that is on your face is coming from behind the camera. If you've got it too harsh right here, you're going to have a shadow. And if you've got it way too harsh from behind, you're going to be blown out. So it has to be diffused. I'll explain what that looks like in just a minute, but just keep that in mind. A diffused light, so maybe a bright light that's going through a shade or something. That's going to be probably one of the best ones. And make sure it's in your eyes. So that's something that is really important in filmmaking. Whenever you see a character on screen, their eyes are going to be the thing that is the most lit if you want to feel what that character is feeling. And then if the filmmaker doesn't want you to know what they're thinking, that person's eyes are going to be blacked out, right? So keep that in mind too, that if you want your audience, so Zoom, you have an audience, they need to see your eyes. So if you light anything, make sure that light is in your eyes. Use your phone to test a good place. So when you're choosing a light, walk around and use your phone in selfie mode to just see where the light is the best. You can walk around your kitchen, your living room, your office, do the best you can. Find, in front of a window is the best to use available light. And then the other thing, and I'm doing it right now, I know, watch out for glasses glare. So reflection of all of that light on your glasses, because that's another thing that will prevent people from seeing your eyes. If you can't see my eyes because there's a huge glare, what's the point? Plus with those ring lights, it's another reason why I haven't totally invested in it yet. People put them right behind. So in this image here, she's got it right behind. That's gonna leave a big circle on your glass. So if you can see me now, when you've got those ring lights, put them up higher and test and get them get them maybe a foot higher than what she's doing in this image, and then angle it towards you. And that'll give you a more flattering light, plus it won't go into your glasses. But this is where you get to have fun, okay? You get to test. Remember, all this is testing. So on the left there is what a ring light looks like with many, many options. And then if you don't have that, on the right is a very simple lamp. I'm sure we've all got something like that in our homes. And that's really doing similar lighting. You do have to be careful if that light is yellow or white. It's a very simple way of talking about the color temperature. You don't want to have those colors mixed. You don't want to have a bunch of white lights and yellow lights at the same time. That'll confuse the camera. So try your hardest to make it all consistent. But yeah, if you can find a ring light, great. But if you can't, you've got this lighting there, or you've got the sun, you know, that will be there. All right, talking about backgrounds. Right now, I am okay with my background. I wish, I don't know, I'm like really into, I want it to be even, like the same thing on this side and the same thing on that side. So I'm trying to be okay about that. So, you know, get a little intense when it comes to your background. Make sure it's clean. Make sure it's simple and organized. I like her background. She added character to it. I've seen some backgrounds where people put maybe a book that they want to make sure people know is like important to them, you know. They really set up what the life is going to be like behind them, because you don't want it to be distracting. You want it to be consistent, okay? And sometimes just a flat white wall is going to just be too dull. So I would say if you can find a wall that has some artwork. I mean, I've got this decal that I get a lot of compliments on that I love. Not intentional, just happened to be that now my Zoom life is living against this wall. So I got lucky. Make sure you don't have a lot of movement behind your camera. That will distract from the important thing you are saying. Try not to be in a heavily trafficked area. And then, yeah, if you feel like you don't have access to any kind of background that is good, you can try the virtual backgrounds, but make sure you test that out before your meeting starts, because sometimes it'll like cut half your face off, and that might not be fun for you. I was on a listen to me. I was on a call once, and the woman's skin tone matched the color of her wall. So the virtual background became her face. So please do me a favor and test it beforehand. And use that as your last resort, I beg of you. Try to get a solid background if you really want to have something consistent. Virtual background, that's fine. And then do something fun. Somebody had their virtual background as like Mario, you know? Like, unless it's professional, sure, okay, fine. But the Mario was pretty cool. Clothing and jewelry. Now I'm going to be talking to you as a filmmaker right now, because this is what I tell people when I'm going to interview them. Solid colors are best. No graphics or word, because it'll be distracting, okay? No words. And when I say solid, make sure it complements your skin tone. I'm using gray. I tend to use gray a lot. I wouldn't use yellow. You know, test it out. Think like a filmmaker, what looks best on camera. Definitely avoid white. This woman, she's obviously got a white shirt underneath, but she's got that blue blazer that's really flattering. And then this other woman's got the pink and the black. It totally looks great on her. White will wash you out if you're not careful. And then when I'm doing interviews, white will just, it won't like, the camera doesn't pick it up as well. So I just say avoid white altogether. Again, test all of this stuff. Call your friend in the other room, you know, just test it all before you have that really important Zoom meeting that you want to make sure you look good for. And then avoid jewelry that is noisy. Bracelets are the big culprit in this. Earrings. I actually was wearing these earrings before the call, and then I realized it was hitting my microphone. I don't know if you heard that, so maybe, but just avoid anything that's going to compromise the sound coming from your mouth, all right? Because that's why we're here. You want to have a conversation. And then, yes, think about what would happen if you suddenly had to stand up. I know we all make those jokes, you know, PJs and then a nice top. But what if you forgot something in the other room? Do consider an ensemble. You don't have to wear jeans, like don't be crazy, but you know, wear something that's going to be comfortable, but also looks nice if somebody catches you in it. Makeup, okay. Use this as an opportunity to look your normal self, but accentuate a few elements. This is, again, something I tell people when I'm going to interview them, because the lighting can wash you out if you're not careful. You know, it's not like just simply looking in a mirror. The camera is doing a lot. The lighting can be, you know, if it's diffusing, then it also might be diffusing some of the makeup that's on there. So that's why I say definitely put powder on to avoid some of that shine, especially if you're like in a hot room. But then wear lipstick and blush. Blush is a big one. It kind of just, it tells the light like, this is important. I have cheeks. So be sure to maybe accentuate a few of those elements, but don't go overboard. I think if you do really dark eyes, that won't really pick up. Again, test it all. Have a fun day. Okay. Just have some fun time testing out your makeup. Men too, you can wear makeup. Okay, sound. Here's the really, really important one. And obviously I put a lot more information here. I'm going to tell you something that is a secret in the film industry. It's called a location scout. And you can do a location scout yourself. When you're sitting in your room, think about what kind of noise is happening around you. So I say choose a location where there is little to no background noise. But oftentimes people in their own homes don't know how bad the sound is until they're actually forced to sit there and listen. Like right now, I have a baby screaming and a dog barking right out front. But I've gotten so used to it, right? So sit in your room where you want to have your Zoom conversation and just consider, okay, what sounds can overpower me in this room? Is it a fan? Is it a door that keeps opening and closing? Is it a refrigerator that keeps kicking on and kicking off? And then just, you know, go from there. Reverb is a really, really big one I want you to be aware of. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. And so reverb is when your voice is like bouncing off of blank walls. Yeah, and then sometimes a closet is going to be your best bet. So I've seen people who have a whole setup just in this little frame, and then they're in their closet. All right, that's one of the best places for sound. Industry hint right there. So when I say that reverb issue, that happens a lot when you are just using your computer audio. So what I mean is there's a microphone on your computer and that will pick up your voice just fine, but it's going to also pick up all the other sounds that are happening around you. So if you can, get some earbuds or a headset that you can talk into. Not all headsets are created equally, remember? Not all of them have an actual microphone on them. This one's got that microphone right there. And yes, my hair hits it, so I'm already not perfect, right? But do your best, because what it's doing is it's taking the microphone from the computer all the way to right here. And this is actually a place where we mic people when they're in production, so that it sounds really, really close. The other thing I really like about this is when you use a headset, I said to avoid room reverb. Plus you will have a more normal conversation with other people. This is something I've learned about myself. If I am not on the headset, I tend to yell. So I hope you will hear me. Don't do that because they hear you. But when you have the headset on, it makes it so you could just kind of talk naturally as if you were sitting right next to the person. So there's a helpful hint for you. And I do want to talk about, a lot of you deal with the feedback loop or echo issue. So whenever you hear feedback, remember when you're like at a concert and they're like, oh, who invited feedback to the show? I don't know if you've ever experienced that. So feedback happens because the speaker, so remember on our computers, we have a speaker and a microphone. That happens when the speaker is too loud and it's getting picked up by the microphone, and therefore it's doing this endless loop. And if you've ever heard, like, why am I hearing my voice? It's because somebody is either delayed and their speaker is too loud, or it's just the speaker is too loud and it's going right into their headset. So you may have noticed in these instances, just plugging in some headsets will stop that immediately. So I recommend headsets. Okay. And to that end, if you want to go the extra mile, so I talked about Logitech, and now I'm talking about the Blue Yeti microphone. This is what I use on calls, and it's actually something I use when I record voiceover. I recorded voiceover for my documentary, Pioneers and Skirts, almost entirely with this microphone because it is really, really good. You just have to keep in mind getting too close to the mic because sometimes it does a popping sound. There's other things that they sell to kind of prevent that. But the point is, it's a much nicer microphone. You can get it right next to you. It sits on the table right next to you, and your headsets will go into it. And there you go, you've upped your game, okay? So those are some great ways to think about sound. Again, test everything. You wanna make sure that nothing is distracting from what you're trying to say. And that's what we do in the film industry. We don't want anything to be distracting from what the actor is doing, because that's the meat of the story, you know? All right, tech tips. I know suddenly having to be your own tech person because no one's allowed in your home right now is tough. And I want, again, do the best you can. I want to encourage you to pursue an Ethernet connection. A strong Wi-Fi connection is great, and up your game and do an Ethernet connection. You might have to get, you might have to just fuss around with the connectors to make sure that you've got the right imports for your computer, but the Ethernet connection will at least keep the signal stronger and more consistent. I've been in situations where the Wi-Fi just kept going out and it just defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do. So if you find that your Wi-Fi is just not good where you are, try to get an Ethernet connection from your modem or your router, okay? And if you can't, if Wi-Fi is questionable, here are some things you can do. Ask people in your home if anyone's on your Ethernet, or sorry, if anyone's on your internet, ask them to get off, tell them to stop streaming, no more Netflix for you. Ask them to wait until your meeting is over. Tell them to go outside and play, I don't know. But that, when more people are on the internet at once, then it will start to drag, okay? And then if none of that's helping, just take your video off and just do audio. Video is going to use up a lot more of your internet. So if you're just finding it's not working, it's okay to click that off and just use your audio. 16:9 frame. When I say that, I'm talking about, you know how you can take a photo like this, or you can take a photo like this? I'm saying do all your videos in this direction. So if you are using your computer, it'll do that naturally. If you're using your phone, it depends on the app. They may force you to only do it in this direction, but just know that people on the other end are most likely seeing it in this direction on their computer. So that's why I say if you can, try to do it on your computer rather than your phone. You'll at least have a lot more options. Have your battery charger nearby. Be able to plug in if you're like, oh crap, my battery's dying. Easily plug in. This all seems simple, but we've all been there, right? And then try to have your setup consistent. Right now, I don't have a consistent setup. I can't just pop open my computer and start. Okay, I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to do this, and it's not ideal. So once you figure out what your setup is, see if there's a way to make it so it's easier and easier each time to just get up and go, get up and start, okay? Oh, and then my arrow is in the way. Oh, that's sad. This is the I wish I had known section. So, presenting tips. You're about to hear a lot of things that I've done wrong. Make sure you look in the camera. Seems really simple, right? But we tend to look at the people that are in the room with you, and you know, whatever feels natural, that's okay. But if you're doing a presentation like I'm doing, I'm trying really hard to make sure I'm looking into the camera. And if you tend to forget, that's why my big arrow is there. Put a Post-it note, put an arrow, reminding you to constantly look at the camera. And then avoid a lot of fidgeting. Try to look interested. That's why these things can also be really tiring, because when we're in a meeting with a bunch of people, they're not staring at you the whole time. So you feel like you can move around and break eye contact. But in these Zoom meetings, they're looking at you. So put yourself in a position where you're comfortable, you're not fidgeting around too much. Make sure your face is also polite. Do as much as you can. Try to keep these meetings down to 50 minutes or less. This is something I've been hearing from a lot of people. I say this because what happened, right when we all started doing Zoom meetings, everybody was every hour, another meeting, another meeting, another meeting. So if you try to keep your meeting to 50 minutes, that person's got 10 minutes until their next meeting. It's kind of out of kindness to just go, okay, we're going to give you 50 or 10 minutes to go be a human before you have to sit down at a computer again. You can't look away, That's just something that I've been advised to do. So I'm sharing with you. Embrace when things happen around you. Kids, pets, be flexible, put a do not disturb sign on your door. Again, we're all being forced to do this at home. A lot of us have embraced it, and that's good. And we're trying to figure out the best way to continue living our lives, even though we can't be in front of each other. But let's all be more flexible and understanding that if a kid does come running into the room, you're at home. If a dog does bark and attack you, you're at home. So mute yourself and deal with the situation. I've also heard that when the kids come running in, have them come and look. And same with the dog, have the dog come and look and be like, and there's something about it that diffuses the excitement. They're like, oh, mom's just on a call, lame. And then they run away. But just embrace it. And everyone on the call should embrace it as well, because we are in a time that is not normal. And not all of us suddenly, have offices at home, okay? So do the best you can. Put a do not disturb sign on your door. When I was I was doing these calls and I had family outside my door, the door was shut, and that was like the sign of I'm on a call. But sometimes people don't pay attention to that signal. So you feel free to make yourself a do not disturb sign. If you Google it, there's some funny ones online you can print out. Here's a fun one. Mute yourself often. I say fun because a lot of people are not taking advantage of this tool. When you're not talking, mute yourself. Just have yourself trigger, right? Just because people can hear you when you're grunting or laughing or yelling to someone, be conscious of it. I've had calls where the host unmuted everyone and then something really unfortunate was said. So be careful with those situations. Try not to have a really personal conversation while you're on one of these calls. Wait until after, because you just never know. And then if you do have to leave, turn off your video and mute yourself, especially if it's a larger group of people. If maybe it's like 3 or 4 people, it's probably okay if you step away and come back, but do mute yourself so it's not distracting. I'm sure we've all been on those calls where there's one person who does not realize that that we can hear them cleaning the dishes, okay? So just get into the habit of learning how to mute yourself. All your friends will thank me for telling you that. Air conditioning in the room. This is one I wish I had learned early on. You know, I'm so good at turning off all the sounds that are going to be a problem. Well, that's air conditioning and a fan. So do a little give and take here. If after 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you are burning up in your room, turn on the AC, put the headset on, and just, you know, hey, got to turn that AC on. It's hot in here. I mean, I think it's about 90 degrees here in Los Angeles today, so I'm going to burn up soon. But hey, I'm doing it for the team, right? Oh, here's a good one. When you start a call, give people about a minute to log in and then start. So basically honor the time of everyone who showed up on time. This is basically meeting etiquette, right? Give people a minute to log in, because sometimes like the Zoom features change, and you know, then you have to accept everybody to come in and this and that. And then while you're waiting for people to log in, the host can do some light chatter, like talk to some people. Hey, how you doing? Welcome, thanks for joining. But then start, because all those people are there to get going, and they are on a time constraint as well. If you say it's going to be a 15-minute call, stick to 15 minutes. If you say you're going to go over, either offer to email the information to everyone who has to drop off, or record it and post it online later. But honor your commitment, honor their time. Here's another. Mute yourself when drinking or eating. That's another one. How many times has somebody sipped their coffee and it was like a little, you know, real rough right there, especially with this mic right here. So if you need to take a bite, if you need to take a drink, mute yourself out of courtesy, because it can sound really gross if we hear you chewing and drinking. And then put your phone on silent and put your notifications on silent. This is another one that a lot of people forget, but if my phone starts ringing, there goes the whole call. Everybody's listening to that phone ringing. So make sure you mute it, or make sure you stay on mute so that it doesn't distract, all right? Zoom tips. A lot of us are using Zoom. My gosh, why didn't we all know that this was gonna be the big powerhouse, you know, 2 months ago, right? Here's some fun tips for Zoom I want to make sure you know about. And again, test it. Give yourself some time to test. Don't do this while you are brand new. Oh, hey, do a virtual hangout with your friends, and then you guys can all test this stuff. I mean, why not, right? Here's a fun one. Touch up your appearance. I have it on right now. You're probably like, wow, her skin looks amazing. It's not real. Zoom preferences, go under video. Go under the My Video category, click the box that reads Touch Up My Appearance, and click it. And then experiment. Be like this, and then click it, and then be depressed, and then click it, and be like, wow, that's really cool. Make sure it looks natural, though. You know, if suddenly you look like an angel, then maybe it's a little overdone. But that's a fun one. Make sure your video is HD. You want your quality in Zoom to be HD. HD is that 16:9 I was talking about. It's called higher definition. Especially if somebody's recording it, you want to make sure you're getting the best video. Again, virtual backgrounds, that's in Zoom. You go to the virtual background option. They have some in there for you, but Google it. And then get creative, because all you really need is just a high-res image. Then it's going to get thrown behind you. So some people will use a picture of their family, or some people will use a picture from a trip, or just some kind of scenery. I've never seen one that is so good that it looks like you're actually in the room, but try, you know, it might actually be kind of fun. One thing I found in share screens too, go into your settings there. When you do a share screen, Zoom has an option that is like you have to click this off. Basically what it does is when somebody does a share screen, it forces the program to go full screen, and it just takes over your computer. So I turn that off. I encourage you to go turn that off, because it can get real annoying if somebody does a share screen and then you can no longer be on your computer. I mean, to that end, people can tell when you're not paying attention. So if you're spending your whole time writing an email during a Zoom call, be conscious of that, because people can tell. That's probably why I got so annoyed whenever the share screens would take over the computer, because I couldn't multitask anymore. And be aware of that. Like I said earlier, use on your computer if possible, not the phone. The phone also is tough because it's hard to stay at this eye level. You know, you try your hardest not to be like, hey guys, how you doing? And then it's nostril, all right? Just try your hardest. If you're using your phone, just put it up, figure out ways. There's things online. Tons of people have given their ideas on how best to hold those phones up, how to hold your computers up. And then change your screen name. In Zoom, you can go in and force what your screen name looks like. I think it's by literally like clicking on your picture and then it says rename. And then change it for whatever your call is. So obviously I didn't do it today, but if you are on a call and you want people to know that you're with the organization BPW, Ashley Maria, parentheses BPW, or we're doing a lot of virtual calls for our documentary screenings, Ashley Maria, Pioneers in Skirts. If they've watched the movie, I hope they know who I am because I'm in the movie, but maybe not, so that they know I'm with Pioneers in Skirts. That might be, especially if there's like 20, 30 people on a call, you know, they don't memorize everybody. So that's a really good, helpful way to just remind people who you are when you're talking. All right. Now we are at the end. This is a big one. This is something that I have to challenge myself too. What's your 5-minute plan? Say you had a call, a last-minute call. Where's one place you know you could go right now to take the call? What tech do you need? Is it easily accessible? So if you knew, oh crap, I have to be on this call, where could you go right now in your space, in your house? And you can easily flip a switch, plug in a button or plug in, you know, blah, 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 and you're good. Maybe the background isn't perfect, maybe the audio isn't perfect, but at least you know a lot of the other variables are taken care of. And if you can't easily answer this and say, oh yeah, that corner right over there, then right now is the time for you to get organized and figure it out. Go find a place that can easily be your setup. I mean, now I know I've got some things I can grab and place here and open the curtain there. You know, it's a little tedious. That's why I would love to be able to just get my space in a place where I can easily just go, whoop, Zoom call. Yep, I look good and I'm fine to go. You know, that's your goal. But if you don't have the ideal scenario, do your best. These are 2 videos I use personally to get some ideas how to look good on video calls for Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, and then 10 quick tips to look great on Zoom. Do your own research, spend some time, especially if you know this is going to be a place that you're going to be living in a lot in these video conferences. Spend some energy to figure out how best to make you look. Okay? Thank you for your time.
A great thanks to our presenter, Ashley Maria, for giving us the inside scoop on how to present our best and most professional and business-like selves when we're in our online meetings with our BPW affiliates, with our events and conferences and webinars, and of course, our working life. Much of our lives these days, of course, is online. So in order to look our best, we need to consider many things, and there were so many rich tips in this video presentation that are such easy adjustments in order to be our best selves. So we invite you to watch it maybe even more than once and share it with everyone you know, and to view other of our videos in this series, our growing BPW Goes Digital series by our young presenters. We trust that it's helpful for you. Look back here regularly because we are building this library as quickly as we can. And we look forward to seeing you also in one of our live webinars soon. Thanks and bye for now.